Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00 and more specifically, the Armory. This is where all weapons from Halo lore will be featured and analysed in detail, and in this episode, we look at the grenade launcher. Let's begin. The M319 individual grenade launcher, more formally known as the individual grenade launcher, caliber 44mm or M319, is a single-shot break-action explosives launcher used by the United Nations Space Command, and specifically by the UNSC Army. Due to its simplicity, ruggedness and firepower, it has been a mainstay weapon in the UNSC Army since its adoption in 2263, and has seen action in several armed conflicts during nearly 3 centuries of use, with the Human Covenant War as the most prominent. The grenade launcher has 2 firing modes. The first launches a single grenade. After hitting a surface, the grenade detonates on impact with an opponent, or after approximately the same amount of time for a frag grenade detonation, in which case the grenade will explode after bouncing off of the ground once. The second firing mode shoots a grenade that explodes when the user wishes. This is performed simply by holding down the firing trigger, which fires the grenade but merely primes it. It will only explode after the trigger is released. This enables the user to lay a trap if the grenade is bounced properly into position, and essentially creates an explosive with a dead man's trigger, or a trigger that will only go off once it is released, or if the user is KIA. This function is also helpful if the user wishes to fire at targets that are farther away than the detonation timer would normally allow. This firing mode also generates a small EMP field from the grenade when detonated, which can be used to momentarily halt vehicles or remove personal energy shielding. The weapon utilizes a break-action breech loading system. After firing 1 round, the weapon must be reloaded, as is similar to many 20th century grenade launchers. The grenade launcher also has a tracking function, which is useful when trying to target enemy infantry or vehicles that are fleeing. As long as the enemy is in range and the targeting reticle is red, which is an indication of in-range enemies, using either firing mode will ensure a hit as long as the reticle remains on the enemy at all times, as the grenade will track the target. The grenade launcher's target locking ability is much like the targeting mechanisms for both the plasma launcher and the rocket launcher, the plasma launcher which will be covered next in the Armory. However, the handheld grenade launcher has a much shorter range than the aforementioned heavy weapons, yet the grenades can easily be bounced in precise angular measurements to ensure lethal shots. However, the individual grenade launching turret, which can be occasionally found attached to the side of Falcons, with its incredibly high rate of fire and debilitating power, has a higher potential for lethality, and also retains the original aspects of the handheld grenade launcher, both manual and automatic detonation, and the grenades are capable of bouncing in tactical angles to eliminate singular or multiple enemies. The grenade launcher is a weapon of potentially high lethality, as even in the hands of unskilled operators it can be effective. It is believed to be more difficult to use than the rocket launcher, however, yet the 2 weapons retain the same potential for causing splash damage that is capable of eliminating multiple foes. In a skilled operator's hands, the launcher can be a perfect tool for crowd control, especially when used in close quarters situations where opponents can't necessarily flee out of the way of the grenade very quickly, and it also compounds the damage and allows the damage to be focused in a singular area. Since the grenade launcher delivers a form of modified frag grenade, the grenade themselves are similar to the regular fragmentation grenade in terms of both physical dynamics, as well as the properties of the explosive splash damage that can affect a single enemy or a group of enemies. Overall, this weapon can be a valuable asset, as it is one of the best weapons to use to dispel crowds and clusters of foes. The ammunition of the grenade launcher is a 40mm grenade that has 2 detonation modes depending on the way in which it is detonated after firing. It is markedly similar to the fragmentation grenade, meaning that when the explosive within the grenade detonates, the grenade's casing will shatter along pre-marked lines, sending extremely high velocity shrapnel out in all directions, often wounding enemies in a large area of effect. Enemies that are in close proximity to the explosion are, generally speaking, killed outright due to the concussive force of the blast, while foes further out are generally injured by the high-velocity shrapnel. Indeed, even if an individual is close to the explosion and the shrapnel hits that individual, it is at this point travelling at such a high velocity, with the individual's body already being broken down by the concussive blast, meaning that the shrapnel can continue to travel through the target and injure individuals further out. The grenade itself also contains additional tracking systems above the tracking systems that are used for the grenade to home on targets. This tracking system comes into play when the grenade is fired to be detonated at the user's will. When the grenade comes to rest, the tracking systems activate and detect enemy combatants nearby. The number of enemies can be fed back to the original grenade launcher to a small display that the user can actually see, and this gives a real-time readout of the number of enemies within the kill zone of the grenade, allowing the person to trigger the grenade's detonation at an optimal time to kill as many enemy combatants as possible. The grenade launcher comes with very many advantages. It is very versatile, allowing it to be used for a number of operations, even quick reflexive counterattacks, and has enormous potential for destruction of both vehicles and enemies. The secondary EMP fire makes it much easier to hijack vehicles when paired with the quick reflexes of a Spartan super soldier. Rate of fire wise, the grenade launcher can utilise even more EMPs than the plasma pistol can, with 3 seconds of reloading time between each shot, versus 2 seconds of charge up time for the plasma pistol and 4 seconds of cooldown after the EMP pulse. Operators that are particularly skilled with the grenade launcher can be a deadly force. A direct hit with a grenade is generally speaking an instant kill to the unwitting enemy that it hits, and if the operator is particularly skilled at leading the target, they can be even more lethal. The amount of additional ammunition that can be carried by the operator, generally speaking, is around 16 grenades, which is quite an impressive max load for the grenade launcher, and due to its high explosive nature, can be used to set off other explosive hazards nearby, such as fusion coils and plasma batteries. The grenade launcher, when used alongside other heavy weaponry or even with a team of Spartans all sporting the grenade launcher can be used to clear out proportionally very high quantities of enemy forces. If a standard 4-man fire team of Spartans were all wielding the grenade launcher with 16 rounds each, this brings 64 grenades to bear on an enemy force, and under optimal conditions a single grenade is capable of killing 4 opponents, meaning that a standard 4-man fire team have the potential of killing 256 opponents before entirely exhausting their ammunition supply. And bear in mind, with the reload time of only being 3 seconds, if all the Spartans are firing simultaneously, they could do this in a little under 50 seconds. The grenade launcher is not without its disadvantages, however. It can be quite difficult to use and take some time to acclimatise to. Accidents can happen very regularly if one is not careful, as the grenades can bounce off of an object, whether it be a weapon or on the ground, a crate or an angled doorway, and perhaps fall into the path of friendly units. In particularly tight quarters, the operator has to bear in mind that if they plan to use the EMP function against energy shielded opponents, the EMP effect will also work equally as well against their allies and even themselves. So due care and consideration must be taken to avoid themselves or friendly units falling within the line of fire of the EMP blast. It is also worth noting that the grenade launcher occupies a kind of middle ground of compromises in regards to its performance against other weapons. Generally speaking, with a well-outfitted invasion force, it is very rarely the optimal choice in all scenarios, given that its explosive capability is outperformed by the rocket launcher, as is its tracking ability. The explosive force rates approximately the same, and in some cases slightly less, than the fragmentation and plasma grenades. It is not one of the more common UNSC weapons, which means ammunition can be hard to come by, and the EMP effect, while useful, in some cases isn't powerful enough to knock out the energy shields of higher ranking Sangheli targets. And even if it does, it can prompt these highly skilled Sangheli to charge the operator, closing distance and using their superior battle skills in close quarters combat, to completely annihilate the user. All in all, the grenade launcher is an extremely effective weapon. It has a powerful explosive force that is devastating against infantry targets, an EMP blast that can take down vehicles, and due to its dead man switch functionality allows it to be used to set traps against adversaries. If you find yourself on the field of battle without any grenades and no ammunition for your rocket launcher, but there's a grenade launcher sitting nearby, it's quite obviously the best choice to pick that thing up. And due to its fragmentation grenade nature, you can gift this to the enemy, and, of course, in this regard it's very much like a bar of chocolate. Everybody gets a piece. Thanks for watching. Stick your comments down below. I look forward to what you have to say. I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons and YouTube members, Neek the Silent Cartographer, Kyle Stevens and Siphonic Storm, my Tier 0 Transcentients, Brian, Sebastian, Red Sea, Darian, Stalker of the Realms, Falcon X003, Alvin, Mr. Fell, Flaming Halo, Starlight, Legions Lost, Josh, the TG7, Cat Herder Cam, Schneidish, Leon, Ignizzle and Alpha Therapy, the Holders of the Mantle, my Glorious Reclaimers, my most loyal of Metarchs, and all the other patrons and members that have jumped aboard to support the channel. Much love to you guys, thanks so much for your support. It's keeping things happening and helping the development of the channel and future awesomeness in a big way. If you like Halo lore discussed to insane levels of detail, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon so you're told the second a new video hits the shelves. Be sure to support us on all major social media channels, including Discord, and if you really love the channel, consider heading over to Patreon and supporting the channel over there, or jumping on as a channel member. It would mean the world to me and affords you loads of great perks and bonuses and helps working towards something pretty awesome I've got planned in the near future. Take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.